do you watch Netflix? Have you ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes of your favorite shows? Well, we've got some information about that topic, so you can learn all about it. That's right, we're talking about the most popular Netflix shows and what goes on behind the scenes. So grab a seat and let's get started. Have you seen The Witcher? Well, if you have, then you might like some of this behind the scenes information we have for you. The cast was eager to jump into this medieval setting. Before getting into the medieval setting, the cast was always in the mud, rain, and just constantly getting soaked. That's why they wanted to get into the medieval scene, so they could have some bread and wine. Also, Freya Allen listens to a lot of music that gets her in the medieval zone before starting. Joey Beatty could always play the lute. Yes, you know Jaskier? Well, the reason why he always plays the lute in the show is because the actor, Joey Beatty, actually knows how to play the lute. Also, he already knew how to play the lute before he even got the role, so it's almost like he was made for this. The producers read your theories. Executive producer Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich has explained that she really likes getting involved with fans. She also likes reading articles that talk about fan theories so she can see how passionate the fans are. Apparently, it never informs the actual story, but maybe one day it will. Who knows? Actors have to imagine CGI monsters. Could you imagine filming a show and just screaming into a forest while pretending there is a monster there? Well, that's what the cast has to do. Not surprisingly, the monsters are not all real, so they have to act while imagining the monsters, and then they're put in afterward. Did you know about these 4 things from The Witcher Season 2? I definitely didn't know about the whole lute thing. That's quite interesting, isn't it? What do you think? Next we have The Umbrella Academy. We've got a couple of Umbrella Academy videos already posted, so make sure to check those out after this one if you do like the show. Well, we have some interesting behind the scenes information about the show that you probably didn't know. Luther was the first character. Yes, Gerard Way drew out Luther Hargreaves first while he was on tour with his band in Japan. He was inspired by a picture of a creature from an old sci-fi movie, and bam, we get Luther. It could have been a movie first. The Umbrella Academy is a comic book series that has done really well. It even won an Eisner Award, which is a lot like an Oscar. Gerard was given the opportunity to turn this series into a movie instead by Universal, but that wasn't what he wanted. However, many years later, he was open to the idea of a TV adaptation after listening to Steve Blackman. It's a good thing he said yes, otherwise we wouldn't have had the show. There is no clear take on the elevator scene. You know the scene where the Hargreaves all pile into an elevator as they are on their way to meet their father? Remember when Luther farted? Well, that wasn't scripted and everyone tried to stay in character, but they couldn't. Afterward, they tried to film it again, but it just wouldn't work, so they left it the way it was. The Dallas, Texas scenes weren't filmed in Dallas. Surprisingly, these scenes were actually filmed in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. They brought in 1950s looking cars, people, and all sorts in order to make it look like the 1950s Dallas, Texas. I wonder why they never filmed in Dallas. Do you know why? The handler wasn't going to be a woman. Originally, John Hamm was going to play the handler, but he turned down the role. That's why Steve Blackman called Kate Walsh and asked her to do it instead. It's a good thing he did as well, because Blackman gave Walsh creative freedom to turn the character into what she wanted. Did you know about those interesting behind the scenes facts? I didn't know about the movie Proposal, but I definitely didn't know the Dallas scenes were filmed in Hamilton. What do you think about these behind the scenes? Also, keep watching because we have some more information about the most popular shows on Netflix. Next we have Money Heist. Have you seen Money Heist? If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you've heard of it. Well, it's become a major hit on Netflix over the past few years, and it's no surprise that it's made its way onto this list. These are some of the most interesting behind the scenes facts for you. It was once considered a flop in Spain. Money Heist first premiered on Spanish TV network Antena 3. It started off well, but the viewership fell off after the second season, and it was then considered a flop. Many people were ready to say goodbye to the TV show, but luckily, it got picked up by Netflix. The first 5 lines took forever to write. That's right, those first 5 lines in the pilot episode actually took a month to write. This is because the writers had Professor, or Moscow, as the narrator. but it didn't feel right. That's when they brought it to Tokyo, and it ended up flowing better. The show creators write alongside the show. Usually scripts are written in full and then filmed, but that's not how this show works. They like the flexibility in the script, so the writers can grasp what the story will need. The writers have been able to use this as a foundation with their character development as well, because they can easily incorporate information from previous episodes to the current storyline. City names happened because of a t-shirt. Creator Alex Pena showed up in a t-shirt one day and it had Tokyo written on it. Director Jesus Colmena saw the shirt and thought Tokyo would be a great name. 15 minutes later, they had Berlin, Moscow, Denver, and everyone else. 600 red suits. They've used over 600 red suits to dress the cast. This may seem crazy, but in some scenes, they've required 8 to 10 versions of the same outfit for characters. That's because it would start off clean and then end up dirty. Did you know all of that when it comes to Money Heist? I didn't know about the city names coming from a t-shirt. That is pretty interesting. Also, writing a script alongside the show is a very different tactic, but it seems to be working for them. What do you think? Now we have Sex Education. Have you seen Sex Education? What do you think of the show? Well, here are some of the behind-the-scenes information that you may or may not know about. Amy Lou Wood auditioned for Lily. You know, Amy in the show, well, she originally auditioned for Lily. She really liked Lily as well and did 3 callbacks for that character, but the team told her that she wasn't going to get that role. She then explained how much she liked the show, and they ended up asking her to come back to audition for Amy. The poo in the sock scene took 20 takes. That scene in The Coach took 20 takes because the cast found it too funny, and they wouldn't stop laughing. Mimi Keene said that it was her favorite scene in the whole season. The director ended up needing to rush the cast because it was getting dark, and they needed to film the scene. Improvisation is encouraged. Asa and Nkuti often play around with their scripts, and their natural chemistry makes it all worth it. Also, the director often whispers in their ears and tells them to insert certain lines that he thinks are funny instead. Intimacy training. Not surprisingly, there was intimacy training involved with this show, but the cast had to watch different animals having sex for their intimacy training. I don't know why they had to watch animals, but the cast have said they watched cats, lions, and slugs getting freaky. Asa greets everyone. Asa Butterfield is so nice, and this just validates why he is so nice. He goes around and greets the cast and crew every single time he sees them. Even if he's finished wrapping up 12 hours earlier, he still makes sure that he goes to every single person on set and says hello. That's the nicest thing ever. Nkuti has a playlist. Every season, Nkuti makes a playlist that helps him get into character for the season. He creates playlists according to Eric's scene, and that's just a really interesting way to get into character. Amy's sexual assault scene was based off of Lori Nunn's own experience. The writer Lori Nunn wrote the scene based on her own experience on a bus where a man did something very similar. She wanted to bring awareness to the audience about stuff like this and how they can step in and help. Well, that's all we have for Sex Education. Did any of them surprise you? The 20 takes for that poop scene surprised me. With that, we're all done with this video. What did you think about all this behind-the-scenes information? Did you already know some of these, or were they new? Which one surprised you the most? Let us know down below.